Today, so many users are on social media. From Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and more, the ideas of social media are endless. Facebook has over 2.23 billion users. YouTube has 1.9 billion. And Instagram has 1 billion, according to Buffer. Growing up in the world of social media, it has had its effects on many young students. From starting social media in their teenage years to now in college, many studies have been done on this mental health aspect affecting these generations. My research question was, how is mental health in teenagers impacted by social media, and why does this occur? The reason I decided to look into this is for myself. The older I got, I noticed how Instagram and Snapchat would cause me to feel like I was missing out, or the term FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and the definition from the dictionary is anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere. This is often aroused by posts seen on social media websites. I wondered then if other students my age or older felt the same way. Many news outlets like ABC News have done documentaries and specials about the time we spend on our phones. Recently, Diane Sawyer just came out with a screen time documentary talking about how this is affecting our relationships, our pets, and those around us. The literature that I researched into involved health experts on mental health and students on their social usage. The first source, called Teens, Libraries, and Social Media, Myths and Reality. This source discusses the myths behind how social media has been supposedly affecting teens. It gives background to how social media is not entirely bad for teens, and that certain things, such as Facebook, that is used for events, is helpful for teens. It gives insight on how to use social media in a positive way more than a negative way. My second source was Teens and Tech in the Social Media Age. This source brings more insight on how social media can impact the mental health of a teenager, and how someone can go about using social media in the right way and not overuse it. It is mostly written for a parent to read, but the information can be valuable for any teenager looking to use social media less. This was a common thread that I heard when I was talking to University of Minnesota students. I conducted a survey, and this was one of the most common things students said. Their parents wanted them to use social media less, but struggled to explain it to them. So it did not skew any of them away from social media. My third source is, should teens be active in social media? This article discusses whether or not parents should allow their teenager to be involved in social media, because maybe all of their friends have a phone, or they won't stop begging for a cell phone. This brings more insight to why a parent might or might not allow their child to use social media. From my survey, students said they noticed the older they got, the less they wanted to be on social media. Their parents never really had influenced them to stop. From all of the times they used it in high school, it seemed that the more social media they used, the less exciting it was in college. My fourth source is Teen Girls and Their Moms Get Candid About Phones and Social Media. This article is a Q&A with a mom and a teenage daughter about social media use in their teenage years. This gets a real look into a mom seeing what her daughter does for or with social media. For example, her daughter would sometimes wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning to get on her phone. Something that was shocking to the reporter, but seems to be very common in teenagers, that they use their phone very often. I noticed this in myself and in the students that I interviewed, is that the younger we were, the more likely we were to get on our social media. At a young age, I had an iPod. I used to get on my iPod very late at night and stay on it for hours and look through social media. Now, not so much because I have way more to do. But this seemed to be very common in the University of Minnesota students that I also interviewed. My fifth source is cyberbullying linked to mental health problems in teens. This source gave me information on how teenagers who get bullied through online social media services can suffer from anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. This gave me more insight on the mental health spectrum of this project. It gives information on how cyberbullying differs from traditional bullying and how it can cause teenagers to have mental health problems early on due to these social media sites. All of these sources were crucial when I was looking into what I really wanted to ask students at the University of Minnesota on their previous experience with social media as a teen versus now. I decided to shift my focus of this idea because these students have experienced both use of social media as a teenager and the falling out of social media as a college student. There were 16 students that filled out my survey. The first question I asked were, what social media did you use during high school? Most students said Facebook and then followed by Instagram. The next question was, what social media do you use now? The most common ones were Snapchat and Instagram. Next, I asked students, why do they use social media? The majority said for entertainment and connection with their friends. Then I asked students how they feel when they see other people's posts, such as a vacation photo on Instagram or somebody meeting a celebrity. They were split. Some said that they had feelings of FOMO when they would see these other posts, wishing that they could be there or experience the same thing. And some said that they felt happy for the person. My next question was, do you think social media has had an impact on your life? Students said they have been able to see other things that people do and want to do those things. Other students said the only impact it had was that they got to see what their friends were doing. I then asked, do you see a change in today's younger society due to the more common social media use that they have now? Many students felt that from their teenage years to now in their college years, younger society is being changed in a negative way by these social media sites due to the feeling of missing out that is causing it, or due to cyberbullying, which is very hard to stop because it's online. Has social media impacted you now more than it has as a teenager, or vice versa? Students felt that they were way more dependent on social media when they were younger because it gave them something to do. Now, busier in their college life, they feel like social media is not as much of a necessity as it was as a teenager. I then asked students to share their opinions on this problem. One student, Jacob, said, I think it's gotten out of control and people are solely obsessed with getting good Instagram pictures while using apps like Facetune. I think social media can be used as a distraction for a lot of people to avoid difficult or stressful things you're going through. Another student named Joey said, one time I was eating out with my friends and I saw a family in the booth next to us. The kids were glued to their phones. I thought it was ridiculous because if you're going to eat with your family, you should be talking to each other, get involved with some real life, live social interaction. And lastly, Megan said, social media has had a larger impact on teenagers than many assume, and parents and teachers don't always know what to do, and they should try to be more vigilant with teenagers' social media use. After conducting my research through literatures and survey process, I had many questions, but I also felt like my research question was answered. Yes, social media does impact teenagers in a negative way when they were in high school. This group of students that I talked to brought up a realization that yes, this does happen, but once they get to college, the more they learn and the more diverse of an environment that they are in, they realize that the effects that social media was put on them is reduced by their usage. After researching this topic for myself, I've decided to only follow accounts that I know because the less famous people you know, the happier you will feel. Without that FOMO feeling, you won't have a negative impact from that social media. Students can determine how their mental health will be impacted by these social media sites. By scrolling through Instagram for hours and hours or snapping their friends online for hours, they can be impacted negatively due to this constant screen time and not getting a real present interaction. What I hope that any students get out of this research is that yes, social media is okay to use, but the way you choose to use it will help your mental health tremendously. I believe from this research that students' mental health can be saved by limiting their screen time on the usage of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, any social media site, you name it. The less time, the more time you will feel present and happier with your mental health. Stop feeling like you're missing out and spend more time offline. Thank you for watching my video. My name is Sammy Boring, and my sources are at the end.